Hey there, guys. Sean Michael here from On Microsoft, and I'm here with co-host Sean Ung. How you doing this week, Sean?
Doing fantastic, thank you.
And we're here to talk Microsoft. This is the official podcast of OnMicrosoft.com. Now, remember, we say it on Microsoft because if you had to pronounce just the URL, it'd be OnMSFT, which would be
hmm
just silly. It's when you have to type it, it's on MSFT.com. So let's talk about all things Microsoft as we do on this very podcast as well. So we have some interesting things to talk about this week. Not a ton in terms of the breaking news department. So a little bit more topics. It might be a little bit of a shorter show. We think that our audiences, we appreciate you guys listening and tuning in, but if we don't have a ton to talk about this week or that, there's no reason to stretch it out to an hour if it's not an hour long worthy show. So if it's 30, 40 minutes this week, then don't be shocked. It's not an accident or anything like that. It's just a heads up. It could be a bit quicker. And if you like that, great. If you don't, let us know. We want your feedback. We want to know what our listeners, viewers, and friends of the show want. So we got everything from Surface, I'll say speculation.
Yep.
It's pretty light on the speculation front, though I think eventually there will be a new one. But we got some opinion things to talk about: HoloLens news, UWP, and Xbox. So
That's right.
covering all sorts of different Windows 10 devices as we always do here. Before we jump in, how was your week, Sean?
It's been good. Last week I was a little bit sick, but over the course of this week got better. Yeah, just been busy working on a variety of things, HoloLens stuff, writing a little book, and yeah, all it's good.
Great. Yeah, it's been a bit of a week for we'll get into this later in the show, but your HoloLens, that's it's always fun. I always tell my friend I have engineers from my journalism department at uni, and I talked to them and I say, oh yeah, technology this and this. I have a friend who has a HoloLens, and I'm so jealous, and it's always so cool, and he talks about all this stuff. So it's big news on that front, and it's good that you're having a good week, feeling better as well. My wife has a broken foot, so I feel
Oh
bad for.
no, how'd that
Yeah,
happen?
I don't know. Did I say that last week on the show?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah, no, yeah. Leah's got a broken foot, so she's
Oh man,
she's kind of dealing with that. She'll be out of commission for a while in terms of
wow.
running around and driving. She can't drive either, so
Yeah.
not
Oh
very
man.
fun. But that's all. I guess that's a personal life there. I guess they're not here too much for us, are they, Sean? We can dive right in. So, the Surface line, in terms of the Surface Pro 2-in-1s, very popular. They,
Yep.
I don't think it'd be a stretch to say revolutionized the 2-in-1 because they've certainly, since the Surface Pro came out and the Surface line came out in this form factor, we've seen a million clones from Windows OEMs, and we've also seen iPad Pros and everything else like that. So, really pushed the limits there, and you've seen big jump between the 2 and the 3. Less of a jump, but still a jump from the 3 to the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, I think, believe there will eventually be a 5,
Yeah.
but and well, I would hope so. I mean, why wouldn't they? But
mm-hmm.
in the last week, we got a little bit of news, or we get some speculation here. Walking Cat on Twitter found some more evidence that Surface Pro could be in the works. Basically, somebody listed on like as a Microsoft on their LinkedIn profile that one of the things they've worked on, it says design approach for devices of the future, including but not limited to HoloLens, Surface Pro 5, Xbox.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's a typo. I don't know if I don't know. That seems like a costly typo that you would know not to make. Maybe this is a private thing. He thought it would be private only to certain employers because LinkedIn Pro is actually pretty useful. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how much this individually means, but you assume there'll be a Surface Pro 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a given, right? There's got to be, and I think the bigger news would be if Microsoft decided to kill off its Surface Pro line, right? Which I don't think is going to happen. I guess maybe what would make this big news is that the name is Surface Pro 5 instead of Surface Pro Air or something different. Yeah, I'm not too surprised. My
No,
money's
I
definitely
guess the
on
big thing
Surface
is,
Pro
is
5.
I've seen there have been both incremental improvements and then a few design jumps. So I have a Surface Pro 2. It's not a bad device, but it's a bit clunky in comparison to the newer devices, which is understandable. But it was black. The kickstand only had two angles, so it went from one angle on the one to two angles on the two. I think the 3 either had 3 or it had the Infinity, and then obviously eventually you just got the Fluid one.
Yep.
And this all in the Pro series. The non-Pro line, we're not sure what's going to happen there. But you also, the keyboards have improved dramatically from being flat on the ground to folding up a bit so they can have a bit more of an angle.
Mm-hmm.
The keyboards have gotten better in quality, so have the trackpads, processors got better, all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
Pen got switched to N-Trig. What do you think a Surface Pro 5 would actually have?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like Microsoft has slowly been converging to this like ideal point. And somebody mentioned, I think it was Boltman in the comments, that the Surface line is all about innovation in hardware, you know.
Right.
Whereas with Apple, you know, it's been more of innovation in software, and yeah, a little bit on the hardware front, but it's mostly been, you know, what's under the hood. So yeah, you know, that leads me to be, you know, I guess just speculating. Something that I've been very vocal about for what I've wanted in a Surface is a pen that you can insert inside the Surface, just like the Galaxy Note.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, but
I would want that too. I don't think that's what's coming.
No.
I've seen, I don't know where I saw this. The speculation seems to be that it would be a magnetically charging Surface Pen.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, I don't know if anyone on the comments, but I've never had my batteries run out on my Surface Pen. And I guess I don't use it every day, but I use it fairly regularly. So I definitely do not want a pen that lasts shorter that I have to recharge. That would be backwards for me.
Yeah. I think it's a bit, to me, I would want it in there. And I saw a device the other day that actually had the stylus. I actually think it was and this is obviously a different type of device. What is it? What do they call it? Chromebook. It's a Chromebook Pro, or I don't know what it's called. It was Samsung, I think.
Pixel Chromebook. Oh no.
Yeah, that sounds right. Sorry, I'm not a Chromebook guy. I don't mean sorry. If you're here and you're on a Pixel, I'm sorry. I think it has that, but I would want that. I don't think it's coming. I guess.
Yeah.
What are these playing here? Ads. I'm looking up research for this thing. I guess I'd want that. I'd want thinner. I'd love it to be as thin and light as more of an iPad, because once you get to the point that a full PC is the exact width of an iPad, I mean, imagine the ads. Imagine the ads if they managed to make it thinner than an iPad. You'd line them up next to each other with the camera all flat, and then you'd be like, oh, is that an iPad? And then you look behind you and be like, oh, no, that's the Surface Pro 5.
Yes. That would be cool. That would be cool if they brought.
I don't think we're quite there yet, but maybe.
What do you think about if they replace the USB port with USB-C? It seems to be.
Well, yeah, this is an interesting phenomenon. Microsoft at one point had the Surface dock, right?
Yep.
And that was like the hard dock that you would kind of drop your Surface in and click it in. And I think they said that it would support future devices, and then within a generation or two, they changed the form factor and it doesn't. And as far as I know, and then they switched to like the Surface proprietary port. And so for all these docks and all these dongles, instead of like a thing you dropped it into, it's like a box with a cable, and then that connects to the Surface in a surfacey way. If they went USB Type-C, would they have to move away from that?
Well, you know, I don't know the specs too much, but my understanding is that USB-C could be kind of your all-in-one port, right?
Right, but then anyone who bought a port, assuming for their enterprise that they could buy 200 of those things, would be out of luck.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think you could. I think with USB-C, would that replace your... No, I think Microsoft is very invested in their current charging port that's also a data port, because it's what's used in the Surface Book in 2 different places. It's what's used on the Surface Pro 3, the Surface Pro 4, and I know they have a history of replacing their charging ports. But it seems like this one, I'd be surprised if they changed it again. I think a lot of people would be mad.
And that's what I was saying, because you had the dock, and then they moved to a thing where even if the shape of the device changes, as long as you have that port on the side, it still works with all the docks that you've bought.
Yeah. Yep.
I think
they'll keep that. I think they'll keep that.
I think ultimately that will be a negative.
to put in a USB-C and take out their.
No, to leave it. Not because that port's necessarily bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the HP Spectre line uses USB Type-C to charge. I've seen devices where I think you could charge from either side. You can't charge, obviously, from both, but they'll put a USB Type-C port on both sides of the laptop, and then you can charge from either side you want, and it can do the data transfer.
Yeah.
And I think that you're losing a bit of freedom. And isn't that what we criticize Apple for? Like, if we're going to throw stones at Apple when they, don't support they use Lightning and don't use USB-C, or they use one port on a device but don't use it on another, or they use their own proprietary connection and they don't use USB. Like, people have said, oh, why did they use Lightning on Apple but they don't use USB Type-C? Yeah. Well, if we criticize Apple for that, shouldn't we criticize Microsoft for the same thing?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah, I think, what would be nice is a USB-C is fairly new, and it's definitely catching on. My phone now uses USB-C to charge, and I've had to buy a whole bunch of adapters for all my other charging cables. So, yeah, I think if Microsoft, if the Surface line jumped on the USB-C bandwagon, then I think that would be a good thing. The only thing I don't know about is if USB-C is powerful enough to output in 4K, because that's kind of what Microsoft's docks are known for, multiple 4K displays, plus power, plus this, plus that. So I know USB-C is powerful. I don't know if it's powerful enough to be up to snuff, but yeah, I would be all for USB-C.
Maybe the solution is just both. You have the proprietary port on one side, and then on the other side you have one USB 3.1 or whatever, regular USB, and then USB-C. And
I think that's something that I can see Microsoft doing. That's something that Apple would scoff at, but I can see the Surface doing that and people being happy with it.
Yeah. Okay, and then you do have 3 ports. You got a power port, dock port, USB, and USB-C. Anyway.
Oh, you're thinking USB and USB-C.
The biggest thing for me. The form factor seems fine. They'll try to make it thinner, but they don't have to. I'd rather it be the same size with better battery than super thin with battery.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Sean,
to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. If that does come, the rumor is that will be announced in the first quarter of 2017. So we're running out of time for that. That would be announced in the next month or so.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, in the past, the Surface events, in the ones that happened in March, they usually are announced the very end of February / first week of March, and then the event takes place near the last week of March. So I guess we'll know, by the end of this month and first week of March if we're going to have an event or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I think on a less happy news front, we got to talk about Windows Phone. I say, look, if you use Windows 10 Mobile, you're part of an elite club of a very low number of users.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like there was a time when
you see the numbers this week, Sean?
I started seeing Windows 10 Mobile being adopted. I think it was back in 2012, maybe 2010, 2012, around there. I started seeing a lot of people going for it. 2013, and then suddenly it's almost like everyone tried it and everyone hated it, and then they all went back to Android. So interesting.
I think Windows 10 Mobile has a few major flaws. Windows 10 Mobile, which apparently is down to 0.3% market share. That's not an exact number. That measures based on devices sold, not used. I doubt it's that different. Could arguably be worse. I don't know. Who knows? Could be better, could be worse, but it's still not great. The thing for me is, here's some of the key flaws, and we'll bullet point them here because people have heard them before. There's no market share, so apps don't get developed. The ones that do get developed don't get fully supported, except from enthusiast people like Dropbox, which are great. Love you, Rudy, but a lot of people don't. And then I actually think the operating system as a whole is a bit behind iOS and Android. So it's not like you can't, to me, make the argument that Windows 10 Mobile is the perfect mobile operating system except for apps.
Yep.
There's features that are on iOS and Android that aren't multitasking on a large phone, something that I think Microsoft should have already implemented. Android Nougat. have rolled out multitasking on devices, and you can have two apps open at the same time. Well, Microsoft had that on Windows RT,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and I wish that they could have brought that there. They already have it on Windows, obviously. I have two things on my screen right now, so you think, well, they should do that. You start, that continuum's good, but needs to get better. But multitasking on a phone, that's a feature on Android. It's not there. Night shift, night light, blue light, whatever you want to call it. Those types of things. It's just affiliate Android. You can open things easily in default apps. That's not as smooth on Windows 10 mobile. To me, it's just not a fully matured mobile OS. What do you think?
Windows 10 mobile, or
Yeah, do you think it's a mature operating? This apps aside, do you think
as
it's a
far
mature
as
operating system?
as far as age goes, yeah, I'd say it's mature. As far
But in
as
terms of features and
yeah, in
development,
terms of features, I don't know. I don't know why it's been so. I feel like, with iOS and Android, every year you get tons and tons of like groundbreaking features. They're just like really like showering it on you, And then Windows 10 Mobile seems to be always like 5 steps behind. So
yeah.
yeah, in terms of age, they've had enough time for sure, but maybe they just haven't had enough resources.
Yeah. I think it's also, you might not use multitasking on your phone, but it's a difference. And Nougat has, I'll give you this. Windows had interactive notifications before Android, and that's good. And for Windows, and Android just got that with Nougat. And so I'm not trying to claim that it's a terrible operating system. I just don't think it's fully fleshed out the way it could be. And to be honest, I'm not sure Microsoft needs to put the resources into it, because at the end of the day, they own it and they run it.
Mm-hmm.
But so many of us are wondering, is the future going to be Windows 10 Mobile by itself? Or are they going to bring full Windows 10 down and then bring it through a shell? And to me, even if you do that, you still have to bring it with app or feature parity with the other operating systems.
Yep. Yeah, it was interesting.
And so you still need to bring in things. And my question is, when they do this transition, are we going to lose more features? Because remember, when we went from 8.1 to 10, we lost some of the mobile features.
Yeah.
Are we going to lose more? You might gain things like a full power continuum, which would be incredible. But are we going to lose phone features?
I think it's safe to say that if we kind of see this merging of Windows 10 onto mobile devices, kind of the Windows 10 on ARM thing, I think it's safe to say, yeah, we'll see a few features gained, mobile features gained, but overall you'll be losing. I think that it'll kind of go through the awkward years where you'll be losing some key mobile features, and then maybe a couple updates, a couple years later, it'll, all that will start to come back, which is kind of sad to think about, but it kind of seems like that's what might happen.
Windows 10 Mobile has shape writing, which is their swipey version of typing. Full Windows 10 doesn't.
Yeah. Full Windows 10
If they
has
brought
a bad
full
keyboard.
Windows 10 to a phone, which are they more likely to do? Are they going to remove swipey type, which is called shape writing, but are they going to remove shape writing from the phone version, or are they going to keep it and then the PC gets it, which would be great? They could do this in either direction. If you're merging these together, are you going to bring some of those phone features to full Windows 10, cellular connectivity? That'd be great. If a full SMS support on Windows 10 ARM devices, that could be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm nervous until we get some official word. I'm afraid that we're going to at least lose a few things, and Windows 10 Mobile as an operating system isn't going to be there, and then the app developers aren't going to come back for certain things. They will for some, but not everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just I agree.
Maybe this is when we'll finally see SwiftKey, Microsoft bringing out their SwiftKey.
Well, I've said it before. I don't get it. I don't care. Just put shape writing on full Windows 10. But that's just an example. Mm-hmm. I don't think the operating system is terrible as an OS. I don't think that it's fully matured as a phone OS, and I think that maybe some of that's me being slighted because apps maybe don't use everything that's available. That could be it as well, because it does have a lot of interactive notifications and live tiles and a good settings center, and those things are there, but it just seems to not have certain things that it should.
Yeah. Maybe it's going to be more of a much more slow transition. Maybe instead of somebody turning on a switch and saying, okay, now it's Windows 10 on ARM, it's going to be something that takes place over the course of 2 or 3 years. So we'll have Windows 10 on ARM, we'll have Windows Mobile, and they'll slowly phase out as those cheaper, smaller, older devices kind of become obsolete. Those will be faded out, and before long, everything will be replaced with full-on Windows 10 on ARM. Yeah, I don't know. It's all speculation right now. It's all rumors and speculation.
Well, this ties into a bigger topic that we're going to talk about today. Well, let me quick news. People call it dead. I don't think that's the right word.
Mm-mm.
I think Windows 10. I might need to reuse it on a full flagship like the HP Elite X3. That could change my mind as the OS itself. Maybe it's just the device I'm using. So I do think there are some features missing, and it doesn't seem to get that full development support because you do get features added to full Windows 10 that aren't on mobile. But that being said, Microsoft has said they're going to keep making builds after the creators update. That shows that they're still invested. I don't think it's dead until Microsoft says they won't support it, which as far as I know isn't happening.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it's not dead. It's just like not very alive.
Yep. It's better. I would say this. It's better than Windows RT, right? Because Windows RT, after Microsoft said that they're not going to make after the Surface 3 was announced and everyone realized there's not another Windows RT device being made, then that's kind of a big sign that, okay, Windows RT is dead. It's still supported. I still get updates. I still get security updates for my Surface 2, which, believe it or not, I still use. But yeah, it's for all intents and purposes, it's dead. It's not. There is no insider preview for Windows RT. But Windows 10 Mobile is still alive in the sense that we're still getting some cues from Microsoft saying, yeah, they're still going to work on it. I think it's not dead. It's still alive, but I think it's fading. But that's to be determined. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I think, we'll see. We'll see. This ties into a bigger topic that we're going to talk about today, though, is Windows 10 Mobile obviously uses UWAs. And these universal apps were presented by Microsoft, I think, is a way to help make it so developers that were cautious or unable to allocate resources to make apps for Windows. And it's somewhat understandable. I think you have to empathize with these companies. A company that makes an app needs to reach their users. And if the majority of their users are on iOS or Android, then they need to make it for those people. And that's completely understandable. Obviously, we all would love it to be on every version of Windows. So Universal Apps was a way to bridge that gap. It would be, if you have an Xbox app, you can make, eventually, that, because it supports that. Make a phone app, make it on Xbox. Maybe you're an Xbox guy. You want to make a video app? By the way, a few little code changes, also works on PC. Great. All right, want to do this? Bada bing. HoloLens, great. These all come together.
Yep.
But our question that we're going to talk about today, this is the crux of the show, I think, is UWP a model that's actually going to lead to app parity with iOS and Android? What do you think, Sean?
I think it has the potential to. Because I think it's a lot more attractive now for developers to make a UWP app. It seems like there's a better reason to. I think it's a path. I think it's a legitimate path. I think that as long as Microsoft or somebody can convince one of these companies who doesn't have an app on Windows that, for example, let's say, there's, these millions of people are buying this new VR headset. We need to make a UWP app ASAP to capture these people. All of a sudden now it's also on your phone, it's also on your PC and your Xbox. So as long as there's one reason for them to make the app, then I think that's all that we need.
I think that's true to some extent. I'll say this. For a company to develop an app, they either need like unlimited financial resources or to just be like a loyalist. And that's obviously going to overcome some of that. We've seen people make great apps on Windows that would probably make it if there were just 10 users. Anyway. But generally speaking, you either need a lot of people, you need a few things. Lots of people using a device or form factor, iPad, Android phone, whatever. You need a lot of people using that type of device. And then on that device, you need them actually using apps instead of something else. So like a phone makes you use apps, at least now. A phone makes you use apps. iPads, you have to use apps or the browser. You can't run a full program or whatever. So people, if they want to reach someone on an iPad, which is used by tons of people, then you have to develop apps for iOS. Mm-hmm. But on a PC, which is one of the selling points is, hey, look at this, 400 million people on PC. I'm sure that'll pass 500 million before too long. Let's say 500 million people on Windows 10. Yeah, but if UWP's model got people developing apps because that number, wouldn't we already see it happening more? Mm-hmm. Some do. I'm not saying no apps are here. I think UWP has made it better, but I don't think it'll ever make it the same. Because even with 400 million devices running Windows 10, we don't see developers busting down the door to make UWAs rather.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Why do I use some apps and honestly I don't know, like when I open up an app now, some of them have been updated, others haven't. There's not a little thing that says, oh, this is a UWP app, or oh, sorry, you're still using the legacy Windows 8 version of this app. So I don't actually know when I'm using an app what version it is. Is it a universal app, is it not? But I use apps from the Windows Store on my PC, and oftentimes I never use it because it's got a more beautiful interface or because it's more touch friendly. I usually use it because there's a feature that I can't get on the desktop version, right? So for example, with Facebook, it's live streaming. With the YouTube app I use, it's the ability to download and watch videos offline, for my kid. So there's all these certain reasons why I use it. It seems like the beautiful touchscreen interface, that part of it, that's not enough to motivate, at least not me. It's not enough to motivate me to switch to those apps.
Yeah, I think some things, like I don't know if it's UWA or not, but ITV rolled out an app for Xbox One. I've seen certain people roll out apps for Xbox, but I actually think the Xbox One more so than I think some people use apps on PCs. I use them occasionally, but like you said, it's only when they offer occasionally, like Groove Music works nicely. Some apps are great. I use a scripture reading app that's actually a pretty good app for, you don't have to carry a big book around. That's fine. I use a few apps here and there, but PC for me is not a main app device. So maybe for some it is. I ask people on Twitter, I'm curious about our viewers. Do you use a lot of apps on PCs? Apps. Maybe games. Games could be it. UWP gaming actually could help bridge this gap. So that's a thing. Let's talk about Xbox for a sec. I actually think Xbox is one of the candidates to make UWP work better. Mm-hmm. I've seen apps show up since the store opened. I think it's definitely a good idea. You know why? A big reason?
Why?
People use Xbox One. I know people talk about it not having as many as the PS4, but people do use the Xbox One. Mm-hmm. And you have to use apps on it. So you have to use apps. So if you're a developer, you make a video service and you want me to watch it on the Xbox One, I can do it through the browser, but it's a little awkward. It's pretty awkward, really. Xbox One, you want me to watch it? Give me an app. Even YouTube has an app for Xbox One. And they hate Microsoft, apparently, because they don't put their apps on any of our stuff. I don't have any,
Yeah.
So
are we counting like Netflix and Amazon? I use Netflix and Amazon on my Xbox One all the time, right? And then there's tons of other apps I've seen popped up that I haven't tried, but yeah, I think those are great examples. If it's useful, if it's available, people start using it.
A lot of people have Xbox Ones, and if you make a really good app, like I've said this before, and you know what? If you use a Windows 10 device, but whatever, I maybe use these guys. Grover Pro, really good podcast app. UWP's well designed, looks great, looks just like Groove. I listened to a podcast on my Xbox last night. I'm going to use that because I have an Xbox, and it's easy to use, and I have to use an app if I want to listen to a podcast through my TV speakers. Great. So the Xbox One, probably one of the devices that's going to close it. Windows Phone, people have to use apps, Windows 10 Mobile, but nobody uses it. That's why app developers aren't going to bend over backwards for that.
Mm-mm.
The one that is a big one, HoloLens. You have a
Yes.
HoloLens.
Oh, yes.
Well, how do you think HoloLens is going to affect UWP's success?
If you have a HoloLens, you can download a lot of UWP apps. They show up as kind of 2D, screens that you can pin around your house, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Whether it's the HoloLens or whether it's another Windows holographic device, you're gonna, people. The only way that you can't run a desktop software on your HoloLens. So the only way to be productive and to use apps is to actually download something from the Windows Store. So I think, yeah, once usage starts going up, once it's the kind of the new device, there are going to be a lot of people motivated to make UWP apps for the HoloLens. Not every app is a 3D app. You're not going to have a weird 3D music playing app with like music icons scattered around your house. It's going to be a 2D app, but within your HoloLens on a screen. So that's a UWP app, right?
Yeah, I think that's great because it certainly qualifies as you're going to use UWP apps and going to use apps. I don't think a lot of people are using it, but Windows holographic generally, Windows 10 holographic, could potentially be this thing where you have lots of users and they have to use apps, and developers will say, oh, I don't know if it'd be YouTube, but GoPro might say, oh, you know what? If we want people watching 360 video, maybe we should get on this Windows 10 holographic train.
Yep.
And mixed reality, I think that it's a big deal. And I actually think that device probably could. So that could close it quite a bit.
Yep. Yeah. And Apple's Tim Cook was mentioned, I think, last week or this week that he predicts augmented reality will be as big, if not bigger, than the smartphone was to the world. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential out there.
And if you get holographic to be like PCs, where it's mostly Windows and OEMs making the devices and you make the OS, that could be a big game changer for UWP.
Yep. By the way, there are some rumors swirling around that Microsoft's gonna not use the term Windows holographic, and instead they're going to rename it Windows Mixed Reality. So I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah. Not confirmed, but there are, several places where that's starting to show up and the documentation starting to change over. I've asked the question but not gotten any response, but yeah, that might be, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Could be. Well, we will see that. Is there anything else on YouTube? I think that it's an app model that could work for some things, but ultimately there will be developers that are just not swayed by it because you don't have, like Snapchat. I know they have this big feud, but if you were Snapchat, honestly ask yourself, if you were Snapchat CEO, would it be profitable to make a Snapchat app for Windows 10 Mobile? Because they wouldn't put it on PCs because you can't Snapchat from a Mac. So would you do it? Would you make money off it? I don't think you would.
Yeah.
I want it. Well, I don't use Snapchat. I want it there so people shut up about it. But like,
isn't that so? There's like 3 apps that everyone asks for Windows devices, right? It's Snapchat, WhatsApp. Do people still ask for WhatsApp? I feel like a few years ago everyone was asking.
Well, people want WhatsApp on PC.
On PC, yeah, and you can
because obviously
WhatsApp
it's on
webs. But yeah, it's I think Snapchat. I always hear about Snapchat.
And then Google apps, all the Google ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my point. My point is UWP to me, if you want my honest opinion, except for Windows 10 holographic and Xbox, I don't think PC is going to close the app gap because lots of people use it. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But that's my prediction. If HoloLens takes off and Windows holographic or Windows mixed reality takes off and the Xbox sticks around as we, obviously it's could close it some, but we're never I don't think we'll ever see full app parity between Windows 10 as a whole. Even if full Windows 10 comes to mobile, I don't think we'll ever see app parity between Windows 10 and the other platforms.
Yep, I agree. It's, PCs are old. They've been around for, a few decades now, laptops and these 2-in-1s. And I think people are just used to working with them the way that they're used to working with them. And it'll take a new device like a virtual reality or holographic headset to really push the UWP ecosystem.
Yeah. Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
So Boltman said this in the comments. See, the app gap is mostly a myth. I want to say this calmly because I appreciate you listening.
Audience
Like
interaction right
for
here.
you personally, it might be 100% fine, and that's completely normal. If you use a device and it makes you happy, I don't care you could be using a BlackBerry from 2008. I don't care if it's a device that you like. But my wife has an Android, and the app gap's real. Like, it's absolutely real. There are definitely apps that I want and updated versions of apps that I want that are on Android and iOS that are not on Windows 10. So for a lot of users, I have Gmail, whatever. But for me, trust me, once you get a bite of that apple, well, it's a bad analogy because I'm talking about Android. Once you get a taste of those apps, you're going to want it. Most people, I'd say 99 out of 100. And you know what? The market share says the same thing, if I'm being completely honest. I love Windows as a platform. I want it to succeed. But look at the market share. That's not for nothing. That's not because as much as I want multitasking, that's not why people aren't buying. Because Android does it, iOS doesn't. It's because the apps. And that's what it is. Not more than 90. It's now almost 999 out of 1,000, basically. We're getting close to that. 997 out of 1,000 say no thanks.
Interesting.
But we can talk about that. But Mike Boltman, I'm not arguing with you. Like I said, if you love it, that's great. But for me, it's different. Talk to me on Twitter about it after the show. No, I mean it. No, I mean I'm trying to be nice. Like I appreciate him tuning in, or him or her. Boltman's a gender neutral Bolt man, but could be general. Anyway, let's move on. Bit of news.
Yes.
Basically, they're gonna talk about the Project Scorpio in June. That's the only news we really have. Why don't we say about speculating it for another day because we're running out of time.
Okay. Yep, that sounds good.
So I think that it's June 11th at 2 p.m. We're going to find out about it.
And on the Twitter, they said brace for big news. So I know, I feel like that's kind of cliche because sometimes we get disappointed. But they said it, so hopefully they at least want us to be hopeful. Right?
Yeah. All right, well, why don't we talk about a HoloLens spectator view, and that'll be the last topic for the show. That's big deal. You have one. You have one, personally.
Yes, so this went around the news. Microsoft released some plans to for people to make their own mount for the HoloLens to put on top of a DSLR. And I actually was able to 3D print one, so you can see it right here. Basically, you attach it to your HoloLens, and then you attach your HoloLens to a DSLR, and then you are able to do a special capture where you allow other people to see holograms the way you see them. Because they have like a mixed reality capture in the HoloLens already, but the resolution honestly is terrible, and it does not look very good. So using the DSLR and kind of going through this way makes for a much, much better experience. So yeah, I think it is a little extreme to make the experience better. and honestly, this mount is extremely complex. I don't think it needs to be this complex. If I had time, I could probably design a much simpler, better one. But it's definitely secure. It's nice and solid, and it just goes to show that there's a lot of activity on the HoloLens. People are doing lots of stuff, and there's a need. People need to show their clients and their other people what the holograms look like. And the HoloLens team is fantastic as far as interacting with them. I go to meetups here. I ask questions on the forum. The people who invented the HoloLens and who are working on the HoloLens every day, they're on there every single day, answering questions and doing stuff like this for the community. So yeah, I think it's a good testament to what they're doing, and it's exciting. We're seeing every week. There's at least some holographic news, which I think is impressive.
Yeah, I think it's great. I still just want a HoloLens broadcast camera myself. where when the one guy's watching on HoloLens, the camera can see. That's all I want.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so this is supposed to be kind of a halfway between what's built into the HoloLens and that extreme device. So yeah, I think it's we're getting there.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
All right.
I think that's it for the show today.
It is, yeah. It's a little bit. I thought it was going to be a lot shorter. It's already 41 minutes, so we're not actually that far behind. And
We are slowly crawling down.
yes, but yeah, I think that's great. We don't want to bore our users too much with making it longer than it needs to be. But I think this was a good show.
Yeah, I think so as well. As always, you can find us on Twitter. You can find, and you know what, Boltman, find me on Twitter because this is going to shut down in a minute. I love the Windows platform. I want it to succeed, but I'm also very frustrated with it at times. So I'd love to chat about what apps we use and what apps we want to be better. So you can get contact with me on Twitter at Sean_Michael_UK, and that's probably under my name right now, under my face.
Yep.
And you can find Sean on Twitter at
Sean_Ong. Yeah.
There you go. So make sure to get in contact with us. Talk about. Look, he's got a HoloLens. If you want to know what that first person, mounted spectator view, tweet him about it. Talk to him about it. Talk to us about it. If you want to read more recaps, write-ups, all sorts of things, go to OnMSFT.com. We have weekend recaps coming up over the next couple days. When the news breaks, we always cover it, on the day. Of course, we, get on top of all the news you can there. So take a look at OnMSFT.com for news, videos, breakdowns, obviously the podcast here, Talk Microsoft, and, get in touch with us. Keep it interactive. We hope you can tune in live in the future. If you can't, you'll always be here on, SoundCloud, Grover Pro, whatever podcast client you use, Podcast Addict if you're on Android maybe. No, I'm just kidding. No, Grover Pro is great. And on YouTube as well. Maybe on Beam in the future. We'll see.
Yes.
Anyway, Sean, anything else you want to say to the folks this week?
No, I think we're good.
Tweet us about Beam, mates.
Yes. Yeah, after we end the live show, we'll stick around for maybe a few more minutes and ask people about Beam.
Yeah, actually, let's do that. So we're on the official show tonight, right now. So we'll say thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.